OK. Got it.
Ouverture de la réunion à 8 heures. C'est programmé. Adoption de l'agenda, s'il vous plaît, M. Zant.
Que l'ordre du jour soit adopté tel que présenté.
Secondé. M. Bouchard. Tout le monde en faveur. Il n'y a pas de changement. Merci. Intérêt pécuniaire? Aucune. Délégation? Aucune. Y a-t-il une délégation? Pourquoi que le monsieur est ici? Ah, si. Monsieur est ici. OK. Le monsieur est ici pour vous, monsieur Boucher? Oui. OK, c'est bon. Pétition correspondance. 5.1. City of Kitchener's resolution regarding consumer packaging on single-use wipes. Oui. Pour supporter, j'espère, parce que c'est ça qui cause des... J'ai parlé à M. Cormier, puis c'est ça qu'il disait. C'est un des plus gros problèmes.
Vous avez une recommandation que j'ai préparée pour vous?
Je peux le lire, si vous voulez.
Ah oui, donc.
Que le comité plénière recommande que le Conseil appuie la résolution de la Cité de Kitchener datée le 26 août 2019, demandant que le gouvernement fédéral revise la législation relative aux emballages de consommation sur les lingettes à usage unique afin de retirer la mention « jetable dans les toilettes ».
Secondé. M. Simard. Tout le monde en faveur? Merci. Ah, excusez, je vais retourner à l'adoption de l'agenda. On a M. Space Builder qui sont ici. Pour, on peut avancer 9.5 peut-être à 9.1. Ça vous fait rien?
Non, c'est beau.
Tout descend. OK. Merci. 5.2. Plus à l'ombre, Mathieu.
Il n'y a pas de résolution.
C'est juste une directive de la régulière, si c'est ce que vous voulez.
OK. Proclaim Waste Reduction Week.
Je propose.
Tu besoin d'un secondaire?
Oui.
Regardez, M. Levert. Tout le monde en faveur. Merci. 6.1, M. Levert.
Là, c'est juste un avis de motion. Tu veux que je lise ça? Qu'il soit résolu que le conseil municipal... non, attends. Avis de motion présenté par le conseiller Michel Levert, appuyé par le maire Guy Desjardins pour appuyer la demande de M. Alain Lalonde pour l'obtention d'une section de vente des produits LCBO à l'intérieur de son dépanneur situé au 3150 rue Gendron. Qu'il soit résolu que le conseil municipal de la cité de Clarence-Rockin appuie la demande de M. Alain Lalonde pour l'obtention d'une section de vente des produits LCBO à l'intérieur de son dépanneur situé dans les limites de la cité de Clarence-Rockin, soit plus précisément au 3150 chemin Gendron à Hammond.
Question? Tout le monde en faveur? OK. Merci. Numéro 8, le rapport des Côtés unis. En même temps, je vais rapporter à propos des inondations. Il y a eu une réunion il y a une couple de semaines passées à Ottawa. M. Sarrazin, M. Watson étaient là. Des conseillers d'Ottawa étaient là aussi. Et puis, on a discuté avec le monsieur qui ont engagé, la province engagée, qui vient du Manitoba. Alors, c'était une session d'information pour lui, vraiment. Il nous informait que le bassin de la rivière d'Outaouais est la grandeur de l'Angleterre. Alors, c'est un très grand bassin. Et puis, toutes sortes de choses peuvent arriver, mais il va y avoir de l'information. Au mois d'octobre, il va y avoir un rapport qui va sortir. J'ai suggéré peut-être qu'il pouvait donner, si la province arrivait puis aidait les gens à monter leur maison, donner un montant, mettons, de 50 000 $. J'ai donné ça comme exemple. Pour qu'ils soient capables d'aider pour monter la maison plus haut ou déménager la maison pour qu'elle soit hors de danger des inondations. Ça a été pris en considération, mais je crois que ça va être tout dans le rapport qu'on va avoir du spécialiste au mois d'octobre. Ensuite, aujourd'hui, j'étais à une réunion du comité de la Forêt-la-Rose, que je suis parti au comté. Et puis, soyez pas étonnés si cet hiver, il y a plusieurs gros pins que vous voyez au sud de Bourgette, sur le chemin numéro 8 du comté, soient coupés. Il y a une raison pour ça, c'est qu'il y a une maladie dans les pins rouges. Il y a plusieurs. Puis si un tombe malade, on a vu en rentrant dans la forêt, on a vu qu'il y avait des arbres qui étaient morts. Quand un meurt de même, il n'affecte 16 alentour de lui. Alors, ils vont rentrer là avant qu'il n'ait trop d'affectés parce que sont à une grandeur mature. Et puis, c'est un des revenus, le meilleur revenu que le comté a, la Forêt-la-Rose a, comme c'est là. Parce que c'est employé pour faire des poteaux de télégraphe, des poteaux de téléphone. Puis, il y a une grosse demande pour. Alors, c'est pour ça qu'ils vont les couper avant qu'ils viennent trop malades et qu'ils ne sont plus bons. Téléphone, télégraphe, hydro. Il y en a tout bien en quelque part. On ne le sait pas.
Même téléphone,
Ah, il y en a encore. Mais c'est employé pour des poteaux. Il y a des grands poteaux, puis la qualité est très bonne. Alors, ils vont être coupés, mais il faut se rassurer que l'argent qui est fait avec ces poteaux-là, le comté a acheté dans les derniers 5 à 8 ans près de 300 à 400 acres de terrain. Quand il y a une ferme qui vient à vendre à côté, le comté l'achète pour replanter des arbres. Et puis, les places qu'ils vont couper, il y a beaucoup de pousses en dessous qui s'en viennent. Alors, ça va donner de la clarté, puis la forêt va reprendre encore. Fait que, soyez pas étonnés quand vous les verrez. C'est une récolte qui est après se faire, qui est obligatoire. Fait que, vous pouvez nous appeler, mais il n'y a rien à faire. Prochaine. Comité Surplus Property. Du Claudette.
Vous ne voulez pas faire 9.5 à 9.1? C'est pas
Oui,
ça que vous
excusez.
voulez?
On va à 9.5 tout de suite. Ah, je l'ai éliminé aujourd'hui. Oui.
Attendu qu'afin d'appuyer le développement de la phase 5 du village Morris, des infrastructures liées à la croissance doivent être construites. Et attendu que ces infrastructures desserviront les développements futurs de Brigil adjacents au chemin Poupard et les terrains externes à l'ouest de la rue Caron. Et attendu que les propriétaires qui bénéficieront de ces services construits pour la phase 5 du village Morris vont devoir payer leur part des coûts des infrastructures, que le comité plénier recommande au conseil municipal d'approuver l'option 3, No City Front-End Financing, décrit dans le rapport numéro INF 2019-006, qui consiste à s'assurer que les développeurs seront obligés de payer leur part des coûts des services, ainsi que les intérêts applicables comme condition d'approbation d'une subdivision une fois que le développement débute par Brigil et les terrains externes. Space Builder conclut une entente de financement préalable avec la cité comme condition d'approbation d'une subdivision.
Secondé. M. Lalonde. Question. M. Lalonde.
I'm just going to switch over to English so that Mr. Darch can follow. I understand the whole process of how that will work, because this is how we've generally approached development in the city. I concur that I agree with the recommendation. It's just that we also have to take into consideration that company is going to be investing a little over $50 million into our community over the next little while. So as a group, I think we need to make sure that the decisions we make, short, medium, and long term, taxation, DC charge, and all of that, does not put into jeopardy that kind of a huge investment into our municipality. Because they are taking a big risk, and it's a calculated risk, mind you, but there's a lot of players involved, and I think we need to respect that as a council.
Also, though, I think we also have large bills coming in. Mm-hmm. We discussed one tonight. Yep. So it's something we have to be careful also.
Yeah, but if there's no development because we're putting all the load on the developer without any option of helping out or doing something for them, well, then we won't get any revenue for the big projects. So I think it's a fine balance. I know the administration had meeting with the company. I just want to make sure that if there's any doubt in any of us that we would need more information, that we take the time maybe to sit down with the administration. Like, this is a pretty big decision.
Tonight is an information so that
okay,
you know what's going on. Mm-hmm. I didn't want this whole project to keep going and you're not informed.
Because it impacts many future developments, and I just want to make sure that we do our very best to be as welcoming as possible to those companies coming in. And if we put all the load on them, and I know it's an approach, will we slow down what's going on versus, and then we have new DCs coming up, there's increase in there too. So we're putting the front end load a lot on the companies, and I just want us to remain open that if at one point they hit a stumbling block, that we're able to create an environment where they can keep going and keep having the momentum. I believe we have an extremely good momentum this year.
No, totally agree.
And I wouldn't want a decision by council to slow anything down. On the opposite, we want to make sure that we support the developers within reason.
Mr. Darch?
Yeah, maybe just a few comments is that I have to extend my appreciation to Space Builders and the other major developers. We tried to work on this. We want to be proactive in terms of seeing development happen, but there is a consideration. You have to look at future developments and what impact that your decision here will have on those, because you know whatever you do here is going to be looked at and it's going to be followed by others. But one of the things, the important parts that's in the report, and maybe it's gotten buried somewhat, I think there's a lot of land holdings along the Carroll corridor, and maybe a few others there. From what I've heard, and this is all sort of third hand, I think there's some misconceptions about which direction they can go in servicing. There's some misconceptions about getting a free ride. And one of the things that I think we, the administration, need to do here is we need to meet with them before the end of the year. We've got a listing that was provided by Space Builders staff, and we're going to look at that. And I think we need to meet with them and talk to them about it and sort of, you know, map out the way it's going to be. So if development takes place with Space Builders, and I know there's Brazil development in there, if that whole momentum takes place, then maybe some of these other players should be coming on board and will be interested in coming on board, in which case payback, you know, if council and ultimately adopts a recommendation, payback for future servicing may be accelerated. But I'm just concerned there's different feelings out there in the development community about, you know, what we're going to ask for. The dividing line has been set in terms of, there's a map in there, but everything west of Carron goes into the Space Builders area. So all of the lands that are tributary to that are going to have to pay for their fair share of the infrastructure that's in place. It really comes down, the report, it's a matter of risk. I hate to put it that way, but that's what it is. You know, who takes that financial risk?
Because I don't think
I gave you 5 options.
It's not Space Builder, it's not Brazil, but it's the other dark side that we're not sure about. How, when is it going to develop? Will it develop? Are we stuck with a bill?
Right now, whoever develops first, in this occurrence, we have a stage that's going. They have to assume the whole cost until the other company decides to develop. So they're getting the full load of something that if the other company decides not to develop, well, how long will they have to sustain that? And that's something at the end, it's the home buyer that's going to, because you know, it has to be passed somewhere. They can most likely front end it by stage. But after that, if the other company doesn't develop, well, you have a private company sustaining something that's supposed to develop. That is, we don't know the future of really Brazil because they haven't put a shovel on the ground yet.
I mean, there's one table in the report where you raised an interesting point about staging, because that was one of the things we said. Okay, when does a certain amount of infrastructure have to go in? But you know, in that table, you know, you look at that page 4.2. There's a fair cost that's going to get incurred. I mean, it goes to 2026 at the outset, but there's still a fair cost that has to be front-ended here. So we've taken all this into consideration, but it's who's going to bear the risk.
But like I said, this is information. Bring more facts for you. Tonight you've got the information. What should I know?
And to Mr. Darch's point is as if you do something for some developers, then everybody else is I mean, I personally have something, a project here that is not nowhere near the size, but I mean, the same implications are there. And when I discussed the matter with Mr. Lenhart and I think Mr. Mayor as well, I mean, they were of the same vision as your report, Mr. Dart, is that, well, you know, development should pay for development.
True.
So it is a tricky balance to make.
But maybe your developer doesn't have to develop or put infrastructure to prepare a second company to come in, and that's where I think there is somewhat of a line.
Yeah, it's
As long as both companies talk together with the administration, that we can have a firm confidence that the second company is going to come in when they say they're going to come in, so they can participate.
Yeah.
But it's not just the second company.
I know, but there's one bigger one that does that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Collier?
But it's the external lands, which is roughly $6-7 million worth of infrastructure, you know, that's, and you just don't, they're so fragmented along Carillon, you just don't know when they're gonna come on, so I think the city has a role to play in terms of meeting with them and just making sure it's clearly understood about which way the service has gotta go and no free ride.
So maybe we should get those meetings going and then report back to council again. Madam Collier?
So this is one of the first times that the city is actually facing this situation, which is why we wanted to get it before council to understand the concept of sharing the risk between the city and a developer. In most of the other developments that have gone on, there's been some risk taken on behalf of other developments by a developer, but this is a fairly large magnitude, and we need to stand back and have a look at what risk we want to take for that. And because there's that unknown group of properties, or 6 or 7 properties that were going to be serviced by this, there needed to be some thought put around, and because we don't know those companies, and that's what Mr. Darch is referring to, that we'll meet with them. Brazil has been in discussions with us as we have met with space builders at the same time, and there seems to be less risk on the Brazil side as there might be with the other companies that are unknown entities. It's the size of the money is what has brought this to the administration's attention. Space builders approached us and asked us if we could bring it to council for discussion and consideration. And here's where we are tonight.
Okay, what is that?
Because it's not an information, Mr. Mayor. We're asked to vote on an option tonight. So it's more than an information. We have to make a decision.
You can defer it.
Well,
You want more time?
I personally would like a little bit more time.
Me too, because
For people to get clarification on something that I don't want to discuss right now.
Okay, so, deferred?
Well, it's just an option. I would.
Well,
and can we also ask that they communicate directly right now with the other partners that are not?
Well, I think that's the intention of Mr. Darch, to contact the other companies that own that other land that we're not sure about, to inform them that there's only one way they can go with their lines. They can't go one side and decide, well, I'll go on the other side later on. There's only one way to go. It'll be west side, east side. So that's all the information we can get later on if we decide to defer and wait for that information to come back.
So are we just direct the administration just do like advise them right away to talk to the other instead of this?
Yeah, so to see if they're on board or not, because there's a good amount of money that's going to be involved in supplying those pieces of land. So if they're not going to be involved, well, I guess we'll have to take a decision what's to be done there. But we can let Mr. Darch meet with these people and see what happens. Mr. Cardali?
Can we still not move forward with this option and then have that, like, there's no ways around it. They need to know no matter what. So if we tell them now and defer this later or take a decision now, our idea of this isn't going to change. It's going to be east-west. There's no free.
The east-west, yeah, that's the decision. They're not going. The people on the west side of Cordon can't go on the east side, so that's firm. It's just a question of knowing if they're gonna be on board or not. So that's why Mr. Darch would meet with them to figure out if they're on board and they're gonna pay their share.
And they may have,
Mr. Darch, did I forget something, or?
Well, I guess we've given you a lot of numbers in here. I'm not so sure this report is about numbers, it's about the principle. You know, whether it's, you know, we're showing about $6 million in terms of front-end financing for the external lands. What happens if it's $3 million? The same principle applies, I think, and that's what I was trying to get at on this report. A lot of it's driven by the numbers, but I think the snowballing effect is if we start to take on part of the financial risk of placement of infrastructure, you will get similar requests from others. And I guess I'd be hard pressed to say how we would say no. And the impact is really, a lot of this will be done on debt financing. So it's gonna, maybe Fred can speak to this better than I can, but it's certainly gonna have an impact on your debt ratio capacity.
So I think by deferring it tonight, come back with it later, it gives us time to get information from the other owners, and at the same time, we can sort of see if there's another solution. But I don't think, Mr. Gert, I don't think it's, we can, do you really need an answer tonight? Or we can wait and go through all this process? Okay.
Je propose de tirer.
C'est gardé. Tout le monde en faveur?
Oui.
Merci.
Mais est-ce qu'on donne une directive?
Non, on se fait.
Non, non, mais pour que M. Dark.
Ben, M. Dark aussi.
OK, c'est pas du tout.
OK. 9.1, propriété de surplus. 1954, promenade Claudette. M. Cardellini.
Attendu que le règlement 2004-153 énoncer les procédures pour disposer des biens excédentaires et attendu que suite à la consultation avec les chefs de département, l'administration recommande que la propriété continue comme le 1954 promenade Claudette soit déclarée bien excédentaire aux besoins de la cité. Que le comité plénier recommande que le Conseil déclare la propriété contenue comme le 1954 promenade Claudette, bien excédentaire aux besoins de la cité, et que le Conseil autorise la greffière et ou le trésorier à procéder à la vente de la propriété identifiée comme le 1954 promenade Claudette, sujet à suivre la politique adoptée par le règlement numéro 2004-153.
Secondé. Question, M. Guillemard. Question? Tout le monde en faveur? Merci. 9.2, Paul Rose Safety. Suzanne?
Que le comité plénier recommande au Conseil d'approuver l'ajout de panneaux d'avertissement supplémentaires recommandés dans le rapport INF 2019-27.
Secondé. M. Bouchard. Question? M. Guillemard?
Est-ce que les panneaux sont la seule solution, ou est-ce que plus tard, où on en avait discuté, il y avait un résident de cette rue-là qui disait que ça rendait à côté du chemin, mais je sais que dans le futur, ça va changer de...
Oui, puis ce monsieur qui était dans le fossé, apparemment, il était pressé parce qu'il y avait un autre monsieur avec des lumières rouges en arrière de lui. Donc,
rouge et bleu, vous voulez dire?
rouge et bleu, oui.
Non, mais je veux juste faire sûr que les panneaux, c'est ça qu'on fait pour l'instant,
oui.
puis on sait que Poupard va prendre une autre dimension. OK, merci.
Tout le monde en faveur? Merci. 9.3. Mise à jour du plan de conservation d'énergie. M. Grimard.
Attendu que, selon la loi de 1998 sur l'électricité, la Cité est dans l'obligation de mettre à jour son plan de conservation d'énergie à tous les 5 ans. Que le comité plénier recommande que le Conseil municipal approuve la mise à jour du plan de conservation d'énergie 2019-2024 rédigé par J.L. Richards et daté du 28 août 2019, tel que recommandé au rapport LOI 2019-09-03.
Secondé. Vous n'avez pas le droit de seconder, M. Boucher. Attendez, M. Sazan. Allez-y, M.
Je suis d'accord avec la Monsieur le maire, pour le plan de conservation d'énergie, ce qu'on a fait, on a circulé la copie du plan de travail de la cité. Ce qu'on va faire présentement, c'est que I will invite Mitchell Miles from JL Richard to do a short presentation of the plan itself. La présentation va être faite en anglais. Si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas. Richard. Mitchell, what's up?
Good evening.
Good evening, Council. As mentioned, I'm Mitchell Niles, and I'm an energy systems engineer with J.L. Richards and Associates, and we were retained by the City of Clarence-Rockland to update their energy conservation and demand management plan. I'll provide a quick overview of this plan, and I've told multiple times to be brief, so I will try to keep it as brief as I can. The city's plan was first prepared in 2014, and as mentioned, as a part of the Electricity Act, it needs to be updated every 5 years, mandated by the province.
Monsieur Cousineau, we seem to have a problem. Pierre's going to try and fix that.
Is it? Plug into that. There we go. It's not yours.
Thanks, good job, Monsieur Boucher.
So this will be a brief overview of the plan. The printed plan that's distributed has much more details, and I encourage the council to review the printed plan. So the cost of energy in Ontario is increasing. Ontario's 2017 long-term energy plan predicted a 20% increase in electricity over the next 4 years. And the federal carbon tax, which came into effect in Ontario, is going to cause an increase in natural gas costs by 80% by 2022. So with these two factors in place, municipalities need to manage their energy in order to manage their operating costs. Any plan needs a benchmark as a starting point. The previous plan used the total energy consumption for the municipality. We advised against this in the update because anytime the municipality would add a new building to its stock, their energy would go up regardless of how efficient that building was. Even, for example, if the municipality was to construct a net zero building, they would not get the full benefit of that innovative achievement by only considering the total energy consumption. So what we recommended for this plan and what has been used in this plan for targets is energy use intensity. That's taking the energy consumed by a facility and weighing it against a common metric for that facility. So for many of the administrative buildings, it is the total gross area, floor area of the building that energy is weighted against. And for water and wastewater treatment plants, it's measured against the flow through that facility. Previous measures that have been undertaken, the city has undergone a lot of LED upgrades through the different programs that were available through the province over the past few years. And there's also been some significant fuel switching from heating oil to natural gas for many of the city's facilities. Currently, the city has no renewable energy generation. So this slide just provides a brief overview of the energy consumption and emissions over the past 4 years. Total energy consumption has decreased since 2012. Increased since 2012. This is largely due to additional facilities being built, purchased, or leased by the city. The decrease in greenhouse gas emissions is associated with the greening of the Ontario grid and the shutdown of various coal plants that have made electricity less reliant on greenhouse gas emissions. Electricity is still the single largest source of energy for the city, but natural gas share increases as fuel switching from electric heat and fuel oil at some facilities continues. 4 buildings consume more than half of the city's total energy consumption: the water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, the Clarence Creek Arena, and the Jean-Marc Lalonde Arena.
Can I, sorry to interrupt, I just want to ask a question while you're on it. Clarence Creek Arena actually runs as a full functional arena. Has, you know, ice and we changed the lights.
And a recreational hall.
And a recreation. The Jean-Marc Lalonde Arena has 0 ice and is at 697 kilowatts? 697,000. And even though we do not operate or manage the Clarence Rockland Arena, that has 2 pads, and that's not even on this report. Why wouldn't the Clarence Rockland Arena be on here if it's a building that we own?
It's not a building that we run, so we don't pay the hydro bills at that arena.
No, but it's still one of our buildings.
It's under contract.
But it's still one of our buildings. I'm not trying to throw shade on your report, I'm just trying to figure this out. But to go back to my normal question, how does an arena that actually have ice is almost the same as an arena that does not?
That is very suspect, and that is one of the recommendations from this report, was to look further into those arenas to figure out why there is such a large energy consumption. It is outside of the scope of this report, but is one of the major recommendations to take a harder look at those arenas.
That's insane.
But that's why we got this report, so we got.
No, and I appreciate it. I was just kind of stunned when I saw that. That's incredible.
It's common for most municipalities, especially small municipalities, that those are their largest energy consumers, are treatment plants and then arenas in that order. But it is surprising the energy consumption at that arena if the ice pad has been removed.
Well, even the natural gas is like 3 9.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry to interrupt. I just want some clarification.
And to answer your other question about facilities that the municipality doesn't pay the hydro bills for, that the requirements of this plan from the province, anything that the municipality is not responsible for the utility bills doesn't have to fall into this plan. But that could always be in a future plan to widen the scope of the plan to include other buildings within the municipality.
So a clearer picture, really, what our consumption is, especially in a building that we own, partly own, or fully own.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, we own it. So, thank you.
So on this slide, it breaks down each of the individual buildings. The green bar represents the energy use intensity in 2014. The purple bar represents it in 2018. And orange is the Energy Star national median for the country. You can see there is some of the arenas and some of the municipal facilities do have a higher energy use intensity than the national median. And both of the plants are also higher than the national median. So energy management practices are usually measured in 8 areas with 5 levels. So 5 represents something that has been well established, and 0 is something that is not present. And for the 2014 plan, the city staff conducted a self-assessment of the town's practice areas that you can see on the slide in the dark blue. The light blue line is the reassessment that the staff had conducted for this 2019 update. And the arrows show the 2024 objectives that this plan hopes to move the energy practices into. For the 2019 self-assessment, commitment, planning, and organization has all increased. The 2014 plan established the City of Clarence Rockland Energy Management Policy. This plan provides updates to the objectives and targets that were established in the 2014 plan. The objectives are for the projects area to improve capacity to identify and develop energy efficiency opportunities, specifically in the context of scheduled capital renewal. The communication objective is to reach a level where energy efficiency is promoted informally throughout the city's communications. For training is to have one city staff receive training in energy efficiency management practices. And the individual targets are based on energy use intensity using 2012 as a benchmark year. So for the 2024 plan for facilities is to bring it back to 2012 levels. As I mentioned earlier, those levels have increased. And by 2029 to see a 4% reduction compared to 2012. For the wastewater and water treatment plants to have a reduction of 20% compared to 2012 levels by 2024. And for 2029 to reach a 25% reduction. For street lighting in both areas, it's to maintain the current level of street lighting that has been enacted through the city's street lighting policy. So in order to reach these targets, various energy efficiency initiatives were identified. 7 specific ones for specific buildings resulted in over 1,000 megawatt hours equivalent of energy saved, which translates into 136,000 in annual building savings, which represents 56 tons of greenhouse gas reductions. They range in payback from 1 to 8 years and can be as simple as installing programmable thermostats or reinstalling or recommissioning programmable thermostats to complex projects like energy optimization study at the water treatment plant. There's also general energy initiatives that aren't specific to any building but take a broader approach, such as conducting energy audits of all the major accounts, specifically ones that are higher than national medians, setting up energy monitoring tools at big users to understand where the energy is being consumed, establishing a revolving green fund as a structure to pay for future energy efficiency projects, hiring a contracting and energy manager to manage the city's energy consumption, and conducting a solar photovoltaic assessment of the city's facilities. Both the arenas, as big open roofs, have great potential for rooftop solar systems, and there's various funding programs that can support these initiatives through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the IESO, Enbridge, or third-party co-op financiers such as Co-Energy. All these values that are on the slide do not include the rising cost of energy or financial incentives or fundings that's available. So the payback can actually be decreased when those are factored in. The expected impact of this plan and the plan for review. This graph shows the historical energy use intensity for all the facilities and the plants, and the projected if these energy efficiency initiatives are enacted. The red dot is the targets for 2024. If all of the energy efficiency initiatives detailed in this plan are enacted, the city will be able to meet its targets. So the targets are based on the previous plan and they're achievable, but steps will need to be taken to ensure that they can be met. The plan to improve energy management practices is going to focus on projects, communication, and training. And 4 of the largest accounts make up more than half of the energy consumption for the municipality's facilities. Many of them have higher energy use intensities than the national median, and further investigation into these specific facilities is highly recommended. The payback calculations that are presented in this plan are based on 2019 energy cost and do not factor in escalating electricity or natural gas prices or financing and incentives that are available through various utility programs. These could result in shorter paybacks when they're factored in. So throughout this process, the City of Clarence Rockland staff provided great support to JLR and was respectful in our efforts to updating this plan, working with staff hand in hand. JLR's energy team is pleased to discuss a comprehensive energy conservation project strategy with council and staff. Are there any other questions?
In a lot of the energy studies that you do, our recommendations for new renewable energy sources, are you mostly stuck on solar? Is that mostly what's being said? Because I read a lot on the subject, and a lot of what is usually being talked about is about combining different things. Like if you want to go solar, okay, you want to bring that in, but at the same time you'd want to be using power packs or whatnot, so that you're also filling those as well. So if you're in a power in the water treatment plant, well, if you do want to have solar, but you need to find a way to you're able to store more as well, especially considering the way that electricity in Ontario is made versus day usage versus night usage, during the day using energy from power packs or whatnot. Other cities have been creative. In Portland, they do the whole turbines in the water treatment from the river, water coming in, so through those power pipes that they call them, they'll use electricity through the turbines there. Same thing, the water coming out of the treatment. So there's a lot of little creative things going around there. So that's the only thing that I didn't see in the report, was more creativity as to what else is out there, what other municipalities are doing, versus just saying, well, you could have solar out there and change your thermostats, which are good to know. I think the report does a really good snapshot of where we are right now. Really questioning the Jean-Marc Lalonde arena with the numbers we have there, because they make no sense. So it's questionable. But I like the snapshot that we're getting from it and the small things that we can do. But I think I'd also be interested in seeing, okay, so what are the bigger scopes that we can do from a complete strategy versus just add-ons at the same time. So I don't know what you're seeing out there and what's being done around.
So we usually recommend solar assessments because they're the simplest ones to undertake. They're the easiest to retrofit on an existing building, and from kind of a regulatory framework, there's the least amount of approvals that are required. If you're looking at renewable energy like a big wind farm, there's a lot of other environmental assessments and approvals that need to go through. If you're looking at geothermal capture for facilities, it's really tied to what the heating load is for those facilities, and there is also other regulatory approvals you need to go anytime you're taking water, or more in-depth thorough assessments. So that those are all options that are available, and we do regularly work with municipalities and private clients to assess those different options. It wasn't included in this report because they are more complex and there's a lot more upfront costs and investigation that needs to go into it. Kind of typical solar assessments are inexpensive when compared to drilling to bring out groundwater to test for geothermal systems.
And the use of power packs, as like Tesla is going on a rampage with those right now. I mean, there's a lot, because they can be combined, they can be expanded and whatnot. And it's obviously with a company like Tesla, it's high. It's high-end technology that they're developing. Is that because I mean it's the whole idea of combining, right? So if you're going to go out and get more energy, well, how are you going to store it also as well, or can you go and store it and be able to use more of it?
So in Ontario, there is a net metering program that is set up that if you do generate on-site renewable electricity, even if you're not using it at the time that it's generated, you can. It's not sell back to the grid, but you store it onto the grid as a credit. And then later on at night, if you're using more energy, then you can take it back, and it's balanced out on a monthly bill. You can even roll these credits forward for up to a year. So that you can do that with any type of renewable energy. For any type of battery storage or energy storage systems, what we've seen in Ontario, where it starts to make sense, is very large industrial users that are Class A customers. The city doesn't have any facilities that are in that class of customers. Okay. So it is an option that's out there, but our assessments, it hasn't been, the financial payback hasn't been there to go on batteries alone. There is options if you're looking at putting in batteries instead of a generator, but there's life safety requirements that sometimes don't allow a large battery system to be put in place of a generator. So we have seen it in areas where it makes sense, but it's usually been for very large industrial and manufacturing facilities at this point. And at this point in Ontario's rate structure, that can change at any time, and then it can always be reassessed at that point.
Thank you. Autre question? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
9.4, plan stratégique de cybersécurité. Monsieur Cardeli. Évident, ça. Je vais poser ça, monsieur.
Vous avez une recommandation elle a été lue avant la présentation?
Tout le le monde en faveur de conservation?
Oui.
Merci. C'est content?
Oui,
Mais j'aimerais, Monsieur le maire, qu'on prenne connaissance de ça, puis à chaque fois qu'on fait des budgets, qu'on passe au travers de nos responsabilités.
Oui. Surtout le fait de l'aréna Jean-Marc-Lalonde qui est si dispendieux. Oui.
Dans le plan, ils ont identifié les édifices qu'on devrait faire évaluer en premier. Ça fait que les édifices sont... Nous, on va les ramener au budget. On va ramener au budget parce que ces études-là coûtent quand même d'argent.
Oui.
Ça fait que ça va être un rapport.
Parfait. Merci.
Merci, M. Boucher. OK. Cybersécurité, M. Cardonnet.
Ça s'en vient.
Noël aussi.
Que le comité plénier recommande que le Conseil approuve le plan stratégique de cybersécurité de la ville de Clarence-Rocklin tel que recommandé au rapport numéro IMIT 2019-006.
Secondé. M. Bouchard. Allez-y, M. Cousineau.
Part of cybersecurity is a new projector.
Ça parle.
On va voter dessus après. On va voir qu'est-ce que M. Cousineau va.
Is that described?
On l'a dans les scribes, là.
Oui.
Si vous voulez. Si vous voulez vous suivre dans les scribes, je peux commencer si vous voulez.
Oui.
Parfait.
Allez-y, M. Cousineau.
Bon, Monsieur le maire, membre du conseil, le but de faire un plan stratégique de cybersécurité, je pense qu'avec tout ce qu'on a vu, on voit des nouvelles constamment, c'est une réalité maintenant là, que beaucoup d'organisations publiques ou privées vont faire face à des crimes de cybersécurité. Donc, je vais passer vite fait à travers la présentation qui supporte le plan, qui est l'autre attachement au rapport. Ce qu'on va passer à travers vite fait, c'est pourquoi qu'on fait ça, qu'est-ce qu'on fait, comment on s'y prend, qui est impliqué, quand débutons-nous, puis répondre à des questions que vous avez peut-être. Pourquoi qu'on fait ça? Bien, comme vous voyez sur la première slide, des compagnies comme Facebook, Equifax, Uber, Capital One, des villes telles que Baltimore, Atlanta, ainsi que la ville de juste ici à la Nation, ont toutes été victimes de des attaques de cybersécurité, puis ont perdu dans certains cas, beaucoup d'informations et des coûts assez importants pour pouvoir redevenir opérationnels. Pour continuer, la réalité, c'est que les pirates informatiques sont motivés par l'argent. Avant, il y avait un système de quasiment des Robin Hood, les hackers, dans le temps qui faisaient ça pour prouver des points. Maintenant, ils sont motivés complètement par l'argent, sont associés à des groupes de crimes organisés, et le but est de littéralement emmener une organisation à genoux pour les faire payer. C'est carrément ce qu'ils font maintenant. Les petites villes deviennent de plus en plus des cibles parce qu'ils savent que les petites villes ont moins de ressources côté informatique, des fois pour pouvoir faire le côté ressources, argent et humain pour se défendre contre certaines attaques. La réalité, c'est que les cybercrimes causent des billions, donc trillions en coûts à travers le monde à chaque année. Et quelqu'un peut devenir un hacker avec un investissement de 1 à 5 $ puis quelques heures de son temps pour apprendre comment s'y prendre. Vous pouvez maintenant vous imaginer des groupes organisés avec des ressources, le genre de dommages qu'ils peuvent faire. Nous, qu'est-ce qu'on fait ici, en ce moment, à la ville de Clarence-Rocklin? On a des systèmes en place de sécurité quand même. On a des sauvegardes, on a ce qu'on appelle des firewalls, on a des systèmes, on a des antivirus sur toutes les machines. On fait quand même un bon travail à sécuriser l'aspect technique de notre réseau. On fait aussi une sauvegarde de nos données à chaque heure. Donc, si quelque chose devait arriver, on n'a quand même pas potentiellement pas une grosse perte de données. Là, ce qu'on fait à partir de maintenant, c'est qu'on fait ce plan stratégique-là, l'idée, c'est de vous donner qu'est-ce qu'on va faire dans les prochaines années. Pas qu'est-ce qu'on fait quand en détail, mais les idées qu'on veut essayer de suivre, s'assurer qu'on investit notre temps et notre argent adéquatement. On va faire une examination de nos réseaux puis nos pratiques par une tierce partie. C'est ce que tous les auditeurs en sécurité recommandent. Faut pas avoir peur de prendre un recul puis regarder, voir si on peut faire les choses différemment. Donc, le plan stratégique, les choses qu'on a mis dans le plan stratégique et les résultats de cette tierce partie-là vont nous permettre de faire un plan d'action pour les 3 prochaines années, détaillé. L'année 1, on va faire ces choses-là pour se protéger, c'est une plus haute priorité. Année 2, année 3. C'est un peu ça l'idée du plan. Et aussi de réviser le plan régulièrement, à tous les 6 mois, pour faire sûr, il est encore adéquat? Ça a-tu changé? Est-ce que c'est... Ouais, ça change assez rapidement en informatique. Pour faire ça, on a créé ce qu'on appelle le cadre de cybersécurité pour la ville de Clarence-Rockland, ce qu'on appelle un framework. Puis on se concentre sur 4 aspects qu'on veut regarder. Les politiques, les processus, la formation et la sensibilisation, la sécurité physique, puis la continuité d'affaires, puis ainsi les systèmes comme tels. On a tendance, historiquement, à se concentrer juste sur la partie en bas à droite. Puis c'est ça, les hackers, ils comptent là-dessus. Ils comptent qu'on se concentre sur cet aspect-là parce qu'ils font ça 100 fois meilleur qu'on peut le faire. Ils sont vraiment plus à jour qu'on ne le sera jamais. Donc, excusez-moi, en se concentrant sur tous ces aspects-là, on s'offre une meilleure protection pour aller de l'avant et protéger les atouts de la ville. Qui est impliqué? Tout le monde est impliqué. Ce n'est pas juste une affaire d'IT, ce n'est pas juste une affaire de certaines personnes. Chaque personne, chaque membre du conseil, chaque employé de la ville a un rôle à jouer pour s'assurer de garder la ville sécure. Donc, qu'est-ce que les gens vont avoir comme responsabilité quand on parle des membres du conseil et tous les employés, c'est de la formation. C'est de la formation. On veut présenter un programme de dire que tout le monde va faire un minimum de formation à chaque année. On ne parle pas d'aller faire un doctorat en cybersécurité. On parle des cours de sensibilisation qui sont offerts en ligne, du matériel de sensibilisation, des ressources qu'on veut donner à tous les membres de la ville. L'autre côté qu'on veut faire, comme si on veut un added value, on veut offrir des cours de Cybersecurity 101, si on veut, à la population de Clarence-Rockland, pour se protéger eux autres, pour pouvoir avoir de la protection de la façon qu'ils naviguent sur Internet. Ça, c'est des sessions de 1 heure, 2 heures qu'on regarde, qu'on tente de regarder la possibilité d'offrir dans le proche futur. Pour terminer, c'est comme je dis dans l'une des dernières, on doit se concentrer sur qu'est-ce qu'on peut contrôler, pas sur que les criminels peuvent contrôler. Si on se concentre seulement sur la technologie, on va échouer. En se concentrant sur qu'est-ce qu'on contrôle, la formation, nos investissements, nos procédures, nos politiques, on se donne une chance. Mais aucun investissement, aucune mesure qu'on va prendre garantit qu'une attaque ne peut pas avoir lieu. C'est la réalité qu'on doit vivre maintenant de nos jours. C'est essentiellement tout.
Non.
C'est tout.
Il y a une demande au prochain budget de 30 000 pour la cybersécurité.
Autre question? Merci, M. Oui.
How do you weigh how much needs to be invested? Like how do you come to that conclusion that 30 is a good start to keep us safe, even though we know that we might not be safe as well, right?
So 30 is a number to get us started.
Okay.
So 30 is, we're talking about having that third-party assessment. We're talking about stuff that we know we can do right away in the next 6 to 7 months that will help. However, in the detailed plan, it says that from here to the end of October and into November, we're going to be tightening up that detailed plan that said, all right, so as a result of that vulnerability assessment, their report will usually say, you have these 23 deficiencies you need to look at. So 6 of them are critical. Well, those will be the priorities. And the reality is, to fix those could be costly. This is when we do a risk management assessment saying, okay, maybe for a certain city, it may be worth doing that particular investment. Talking to other cities, talking to other partners, is it really worth it for us to do that investment? Becomes a risk management discussion of what we do and when. Right now, that $30,000 is purely just to get us started and to do a few initiatives that'll help us plan the rest of the 3 years, as well as get some immediate wins.
Perfect. Thank you.
Moi, je veux juste dire, en lisant le rapport, tout ça, il y avait beaucoup d'informations, c'était quand même bien organisé. Puis honnêtement, en voyant ça, ça me donne quand même beaucoup confiance qu'on s'en va dans une bonne direction avec ça. Fait que je pense que c'est bien structuré. Je vous remercie beaucoup pour le rapport. Ça me donne confiance où est-ce qu'on s'en va.
Prenez ça très bien, là, parce qu'un compliment de même de M. Bouchard, c'est quelque chose.
Je le prends très bien, merci beaucoup.
Merci, M. Bouchard. Merci, M. Cousin.
Merci.
Tout le monde en faveur? Merci. 9.6. Frais de développement.
Attendu que la Cité a initié à compléter une étude de niveau supérieur afin de déterminer les besoins en capital basés sur les projections de croissance de la municipalité et attendu que l'intention de la Cité est de publier l'ébauche de l'étude de redevance d'aménagement sur le site web de la Cité le 18 septembre 2019 et attendu que la Cité doit adopter le règlement sur la redevance d'aménagement d'ici le 5 février 2020 et attendu que les employés de la Cité ont consulté la communication des développeurs en rapport à l'ébauche du programme de travaux capitaux ainsi que les frais résidentiels et non résidentiels associés aux redevances d'aménagement. Que le rapport INF 2019-007 soit reçu à titre d'information.
Secondé. M. Levert. Question. M. Grimard.
Est-ce qu'il va y avoir d'autres rencontres avec les développeurs? Je regarde votre annexe 4 ou l'attachement numéro 4 avec votre horaire. Je vois qu'il y a une rencontre publique. Je pense que c'est un Pardon me? You want me to go in English? Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll go in English. I see in the attachment 4 the schedule for all the dates to be passed, and I see a public meeting on October 25th, which we have to do. Is there going to be any more, I wouldn't say private, but more consultation with the developers with the new numbers? I know you've said you've had some in the past, but I'm sure once they find out the numbers, they'll probably want to discuss. And I don't see anywhere where we are scheduling a meeting with the developers after the numbers are released publicly.
Yeah, you're quite correct. There isn't anything scheduled, although when the DC background study is published, that's a consultation period. So people can look at that, whether it be developers or builders, and pass comment on what we've done. But I guess one of the points that I tried to emphasize in this report is the consultation that we've gone through, leading up to this point in time. We developed local standards that hadn't been present before, and I think we got a very positive response from the consultant for the development industry that it's a lot clearer than it's been before. It lays out who's responsible for what. Mm-hmm. But as well, after we presented our I guess a slide presentation back in June, we went out to the development community, and a lot of the builders, developers, and consultants that attended our regular annual meetings here, they would sign in, give their email addresses. So once council had seen that program, we sent that out and we gave them a month's time to respond. I think it closed on the 23rd of August. And we got about 5 responses. Didn't get any comment, maybe surprisingly enough, but we didn't get any comment about the quantum of the charge or any of the projects. If anything, some of the comments we got was to add. Was to add a couple of projects, and we looked at those in relation to our local service standards that we were adopting, and we added some of those in. But
so they're okay with 24% increase in the residential
I don't
DCs.
have anything to point to the fact that they're not. I mean, I think we've been, you hear the word all the time, we've been very transparent. We've worked closely with the developers, and we made sure that we sent out the documents. So I don't think there's any surprises out there. Now, that's not to say that in this period that we're entering into now, that you won't get some requests and comments. But I think we've done everything we can to be open and transparent with the development.
I was not discussing transparency. I was more discussing like,
yeah.
Okay, they're okay with where we're going. They don't find it too high. It's not going to slow down the development, because we had that at the last time. We were able to compete with other cities, and it shows. Like the recent years have been extremely good. So now when I see 24% increase, and ultimately it's the client that ends up paying, but a part of it, a large part of it. So I just want to make sure we're on track with maintaining again the momentum of development we have in our city.
So we're entering into a public consultation process at this point. So we chose tonight to bring you all the details of so you're up to date with the development charge study. On the 18th, all of the information will become public as the final draft report. And we are obligated under the Development Charge Act to notify all of our developers. Anybody who's asked the municipality a question or had any interest in development, they go on what we call an interested parties list, and we're obligated to share all of that information to make sure that they're aware of that. But as Mr. Darch has said, we've engaged the community, we've had good participation at the meetings, they're aware the charge is going up, and as Mr. Darch said, that it was surprising not having the feedback. So there's a public meeting coming up. They will all be invited to that public meeting and have that information.
Yeah. Thank you.
So on the 18th, it's not finalized, right? It's just here's where we plan on going. Okay, and then getting the public consultation on it.
Over the next 60 days, and we receive comment.
Okay.
From council and from the public.
By not having any comment about the increase, shouldn't we be worried that we didn't approach the right way to talk about it?
Okay. So what we did is we sent this out directly to all of the developers. We've had them look at all the projects that are on here, had them look at all the charge increases that was a result of the projects that are on here. And so the only requests that we had was to consider additional projects and to add them into the DCs. So we have, based on the local service standards, so there are some projects that are DC eligible and some that aren't, and the ones that were added onto the project list. And so there's been no pushback or no developer that said that these projects shouldn't occur or that these projects don't make sense.
They want the projects.
I think we also have to consider that, during the time that you were asking for feedback is right smack in the middle of construction season. So they're probably preoccupied as well with other things like building houses and building projects and stuff like that. Me, I'm a bit worried with a 24% increase on the residential side, a 35% increase on the non-residential side. When you see the comparators around us, where we have certain municipalities whose charge is literally a third of what we're going to be going with, apparently. And these municipalities, at least two of them, have well, 3 now, have a lot of commercial space to develop, industrial lands to develop. They're literally giving away those lots for peanuts because they want those people to come and invest in their communities. We don't have that option because we basically don't have any commercial industrial land to develop at this point. It's no secret our tax base or tax base for commercial is very low. We've talked about numerous times on trying to get that back to a more reasonable percentage to help our residential tax base. The last development charge we did in 2015, we increased the commercial side by 35%. We're increasing again by 35%. So how are we going to be able to attract businesses to develop into our city? And if you look just at ATG who built last year, for them, it's almost $90,000 more in development charges just for that one building. So it's a huge cost for a city that is begging literally people to come in for commercial because we know that we need to have an increased tax base for that. So, and I see a lot of the projects that are on the development charge list where I think we need to really need to review that as a council and say, okay, well, do we really need all those projects? I mean, there's a few on there. We talked about a few of them lately. We talked about one tonight. So I mean, I think we need to have that conversation and look at those things. There's some things on there that I don't think we actually need. We should really reconsider. And so I'm hoping that the development committee is going to come to the table on the next meeting and say, okay, well, okay.
As far as the commercial, I must agree with Mr. Lalonde. We're complaining that we're at, what, 6% commercial taxes, and I don't think we're going to do anything to attract people if we raise development charges. Maybe there's a way of looking at what we can do about that, because we do want to bring commercial. We had a meeting, was it in May or something like that, here, specifically asking for solutions to try to boost that kind of development, and now we're coming with 35% increase to the charge. I mean, that's we're saying something, but we're doing the opposite. So I think we need to review those projects. Suzanne?
We are in a catch-22 because 40 years when all the sewers start to go, the price is going to be about 4 times what they are today to replace them. So we're going to have to invest and get some money now, because if we don't do it through certain development charges, well, then the residents are going to have to pay for it.
But you don't
renew. Then you're going to be in a different situation.
You don't renew. Charges won't be able to pay for these.
Yeah, you don't renew infrastructure with these.
Okay, well, you get what I'm trying to say, though, with everything else that's going to be crumbling in the next 40 years. We went out and we were building massive developments. We have a responsibility. I understand that 26% is a lot. We have a responsibility.
It's 35.
Sorry, 35. We have a responsibility to make sure that the city is actually in a good condition in the next 40 years. We have that.
Yep.
We do have hard decisions to make. Station number 4.
Yeah.
On my list of priorities, right about here. Not that that fire protection is not important. Maybe we can look at buying the land and reserve it and building it when we think we're going to need it. But there's things like that we need to look at more closely. But it is a catch-22. You have to trust the fact that they're getting these numbers and they're not pulling them out of anywhere. Yeah. They're clearly pulling them out of where they need to be and where other municipalities, I assume, are lining themselves up for, because everyone is starting to realize what the cost is going to be in the next little while. So it's a tough position to be in. I'm glad I'm not a builder. When it comes time to what you were saying about the businesses, you can't force businesses to set up. Even prior to this jump, where are they now? We've got how many commercial spaces empty? Mm-hmm. It's not because things aren't working, it's just they're just not coming in. Hopefully we're going to have someone in place that's going to be able to drive that up. But we're in a really, really weird situation because we're trying to be here. We're still trying to get there.
Well, maybe we need to reassess where we should be.
Absolutely.
And figure out, okay, what is a necessity versus a need or a want.
Yes, but
And
every time we approve more developments, we have to actually pay to upgrade a sewer system, upgrade a water system. They all come hand in hand. So at some point, you're gonna have to figure out and go, are we building enough? Maybe we can actually just go, maybe we need to slow down a little to try to catch up on a couple other places. I don't have the answers. I'm just saying at some point, we're gonna have to do some serious soul searching as to where we wanna be. Sorry, that was.
No, that's fine. But in a way, it's true, 35% seems high, and we are trying to get commercial businesses here, but we are caught in the catch where we're at 26,000 in population, and we've been told that at 35, 40,000, we will attract a lot more businesses. So we're sort of in the middle here in the catch. That's what I'm quoting.
I just wanted to make an overall comment that the projects that are presented before you are intended there to support the future growth. We've seen a couple cases when ATG built where the infrastructure that was put in place was not robust enough to support them, and we have to cycle back. Fortunately, it wasn't our infrastructure other than the road, but the hydro and natural gas were not there to support the growth. So the infrastructure that's presented before you is there intended to support the growth. And as long as we want to keep growing, and maybe that's what you're referring to in terms of where we want to be, we have to put that infrastructure in place.
You know, when I look at, to Maro's point, about Station 4, first of all, the amount of $3 million to construct, when we have, clearly we have way more than that just with the fire stations we built this year. When you have a population of 25,000 right now, even if we double it in the next 40 years, and that's a big maybe because we still have no highway, and nowhere near in the future that's going to get fixed. So when you have a city the size of Clarence Rockland, which is basically the same size as Orleans, look at geographically, it's about 300 square kilometers. You have 5 fire stations for Orleans with a population of 125,000 people and a much larger commercial base than we do.
Well, it's very difficult to compare that because you've got full-time firefighters in those stations.
Yeah.
So it's not a comparable.
When you have to put yourself into a position where there's a fine line between public safety versus you want to ensure that, but you also want to be able to ensure that you attract people to come to the city and retain the ones you have. And that's
juste un point d'ordre, monsieur le maire. On est sur un fait de frais de développement, là, on est rendu sur des pompiers. Est-ce qu'on peut rester là-dessus sur
regarde les frais de développement, t'en as pour 5-6 millions.
Sur une conversation sur des stations de pompiers. Là. Si on pourrait juste rester sur le point. Je ne sais pas s'il y avait un point que tu voulais mettre précisément là-dessus. Je pense que le point sur le commercial, de toute façon, on est d'accord sur ce genre de choses-là. Mais en même temps, je pense que le développement économique peut venir de l'intérieur, des business rentrer ça ici. Il n'y a pas de frais de développement qui vient avec ça. En termes de DC charge. Je m'excuse pour la conversation, mais j'aimerais juste qu'on reste sur le point qui est...
Moi, je pense qu'il exprime son point parce que les stations, ils figurent dans DC charge. On doit voter là-dessus. Fait que son point de discussion, pour ma part, il est très applicable. Si je regarde l'attachement 1, on voit tous les montants pour la station 4, on voit tout l'équipement pour la station 4. On parle d'au-dessus de presque 3 millions, presque 4 millions. Fait que je pense
plus les équipements. Parce que
oui, c'est ça, j'ai pas compris.
Mais il y a plusieurs choses qui ne rentreront pas dans les frais de développement de son
candidat. Ça, c'est l'autre variable, M. le maire. C'est que souvent, les choses, quand ils ne rentrent pas dans les frais de développement, ça veut dire que c'est de la dette municipale qu'il faut que tu mettes ses taxes. Fait que ça, c'est comme un moment donné, tu as-tu vraiment besoin?
Il y a bien des choses là-dedans qui ne qualifient pas dans le frais de développement.
We're going to be having more discussion.
Yeah. I think we should wait till we get more information from the public to see what the reaction is going to be, because this is being presented as information. So let's wait to see what reaction we get. We'll find out when we get the public meeting, and we'll see there. I think right now, I think it's been presented. Let's wait and see what the reaction is. Any other, Madam Collier?
The treasurer has just pointed out to me that we should indicate that Station 4 is not accounted for in this charge. It's identified in what we call the post-planning period. So this particular charge is not going up because of the...
Well, the equipment is there on this 10-year plan.
Okay. But the station itself is not.
No, but, you know, if you buy the equipment, it's
Yeah.
because you're going to...
Okay.
OK. Tout le monde en faveur de recevoir comme information? Merci. 10. Autre item. Avez-vous des questions pour les directeurs? M. Grimard?
Non.
Suzanne? M. Cardellini? Non. M. Charles?
Oui, j'ai une question, peut-être plus pour M. Commis. Monsieur Roy. Est-ce qu'on a un... Là, je m'excuse en étant peut-être pas familier avec toutes les bylaws qu'on a peut-être dans la municipalité. Est-ce qu'on a une mesure qui empêche des camions commerciaux plus lourds d'utiliser les routes résidentielles, vraiment des routes tertiaires dans des quartiers? Parce que la situation telle qu'elle dans le quartier 4, où ce qu'on a, disons, on regarde Landrock, il y a sa petite endroit d'opération proche Laurier, Bonavista, les gros camions qui sortent le matin à place de prendre Laurier et Caron pour aller dans le village Morris, se promènent sur Bonavista, Sandra, Beaumont, dans des endroits où il y a des groupes d'enfants en train d'attendre pour des autobus, qu'on a des gros camions qui passent là avec l'équipement de livraison. Je pense qu'il y a deux problèmes avec ça. Un, la sécurité des enfants, mais le deuxième aussi, bien, ce genre de poids-là dans ces rues-là, c'est pas là qu'on veut avoir. On refait la rue Laurier et la rue Caron pas mal plus souvent qu'on peut entretenir un chemin comme la rue Belvédère qui est déjà pas en un bel état, puis d'avoir des gros camions qui passent là-dessus, fait que c'est pas souhaitable. Fait que je veux juste savoir, on a-tu quelque chose en place pour empêcher ce genre de situation-là, ou est-ce que j'ai besoin d'apporter quelque chose au Conseil pour qu'on regarde cette situation-là? Elle est peut-être spécifique, mais je ne sais pas si c'est une situation qu'on retrouve à d'autres endroits dans la municipalité.
C'est un problème, je pense, dans toutes les municipalités, puis oui, on a quelque chose en place, mais malheureusement, c'est pas quelque chose que nous autres, on a l'autorité d'enforcer. On est supposé avoir un partenariat avec la police provinciale spécifiquement pour ça, même la semaine passée, mais on n'a pas été contacté parce qu'on essaie de faire comme un joint de partenariat avec un de nous autres et un d'eux autres parce qu'on a besoin d'avoir quelqu'un pour détenir, pour arrêter le véhicule tel quel. Mais il n'y a juste pas eu d'avancement là-dessus la semaine passée, mais je vais faire un suivi et je vais te revenir là-dessus parce que oui, c'est un problème, mais dans toutes les places, toutes les majorités.
Sinon, est-ce que c'est possible, disons, de juste si on commence avec cette compagnie-là, de juste faire un suivi avec eux si il y aurait une possibilité pour la sécurité, juste de leur gré d'être capable d'utiliser les routes principales versus les routes de quartier?
Oui.
OK, merci.
Juste pour continuer sur le point de M. Bouchard, ça serait très facile aussi, puis je ne me mets pas dans vos souliers, mais on sait combien de compagnies qu'on a en ville qui ont des gros camions. It's time to maybe be a little proactive versus reactive and hit them off right off the bat and say, please keep your trucks off of, smaller roads, keep them on the main roads. Puis ça réglerait le problème.
C'est comme la Claude, on ne peut pas les enlever. On n'est pas... Le bylaw n'est pas écrit qu'on... On n'est pas équipé.
On n'a pas d'autorité.
Non, c'est ça.
C'est la police provinciale.
Oui, mais M. le maire, une petite visite de réglementation pour juste dire, s'il vous plaît, en temps de partenariat communautaire.
Encore une fois, par exemple, c'est quelque chose qu'on a amené à la police provinciale de nous redonner le pouvoir, parce qu'on avait déjà le pouvoir de faire ça. Puis on attend.
Si seulement on avait une connexion avec la police. C'est seulement.
Police provinciale, non municipale.
Commentaire.
Monsieur Levert?
Ouais, non, je l'ai.
Monsieur Lalonde?
Oui, j'ai une petite question, M. le maire. Dernièrement, on a eu des petites situations un peu plus complexes là, avec la rue Rochon, avec sur la rue Landry, avec l'établissement, la business qu'il y a là. Je trouve qu'il y a un genre de disconnect ou entre le département de bylaw, le département de planning ou zoning, ou si tu veux l'appeler. On dirait que les gens, ils ne savent pas trop exactement qui devrait réagir, qui devrait dire quoi, qui devrait prendre en charge telle situation. Puis je pense que ça crée beaucoup d'incertitudes. Comme moi, des fois, je posais une question à Yves, puis il disait, ben André, c'est pour moi, tu devrais t'appeler Chantal. Je m'appelle Chantal, ben ça, faudrait que tu parles de la réglementation. On dirait que quand ça vient de la résolution de problèmes, de situations plus spécial, on va dire, il y a un disconnect entre qui devrait faire quoi. Puis même les résidents le sentent parce que quand ils appellent pour se plaindre, ils se font rediriger un peu partout. Fait que, je ne sais pas si c'est quelque chose que vous pouvez vous mettre ensemble puis essayer de trouver, voir si qu'est-ce qui peut être fait, s'il y a quelque chose qui peut être fait, mais juste pour qu'on soit un peu plus unis dans notre intervention, si on peut dire.
Moi, ben, c'est sûr et certain qu'il y a quelque chose qui peut être fait. Depuis notre discussion, il y a déjà eu une rencontre avec certains départements pour mettre quelque chose en place juste pour qu'il y ait un meilleur système de suivi. Puis c'est un joint de partenariat. C'est sûr qu'il y a beaucoup de situations qui arrivent là que de notre côté, je peux juste parler de notre département, qu'il peut y avoir des questions, admettons, zoning qui ne sont pas aussi confortables à répondre versus building code qui ne sont pas aussi confortables à répondre. Puis c'est sûr qu'il faut qu'il y ait de la communication ensemble, mais nous autres, de notre côté, on a essayé de prendre charge, puis s'il y a un appel qui rentre n'importe quelle situation, de faire les premiers pas, puis d'aller chercher les ressources nécessaires dans les autres départements pour avoir un meilleur système de suivi et de communication avec le public. Ça, c'est de notre côté spécifiquement. Mais je pense que ça devrait améliorer. C'est du nouveau pour, je pense, tous les départements de travailler un peu plus ensemble, mais je pense que c'est l'approche qui va vraiment aider plus à nous.
Juste, ça va vous aider, vous aussi, à gérer vos propres charges de travail à l'interne, parce qu'il y a un peu de perte de temps qui est comme, c'est-tu moi qui fais ça, c'est-tu lui qui fait ça? C'est en tout cas, c'est juste quelque chose à songer, à regarder, parce que, regarde, on va toujours avoir des situations plus difficiles comme ça, fait que je pense qu'il faut juste être prêt à ces éventualités.
Au lieu de tunnel vision, de regarder le gros portrait, parce qu'on est tous autour de la même équipe.
C'est ça.
Finalement, je voudrais mentionner à propos de M. Wilson. M. Wilson est ouvert à moi comme c'est là. La semaine passée, je crois qu'il avait bâti une sorte d'hôpital. Il travaille sur une école, comme c'est là. Alors, il a été choisi une des premières équipes pour aller aider là-bas, puis faire certain qu'il y avait de l'eau potable et tout. M. Wilson est très respecté dans ce monde d'urgence-là. Et puis, c'est un atout pour nous d'avoir un chef de pompier qui est si en demande, mais si honoré un peu partout. Parce que, on va vous dire, c'est pas un cadeau, parce que je pense qu'il donnait un autre tournade cette semaine, qui avait des chances d'ouragan, dépendant à quelle vitesse qu'elle va, là. Qu'est-ce que vous voulez? C'est pas nous autres qui décident, mais que ce soit une ou l'autre, je sais que j'étais dans une tente, tu vas dire, mon Dieu, viens m'aider, parce que je crois bien que ça doit gigoter un peu. Alors, il faut donner le crédit à M. Wilson, comme quoi il fait de la bonne ouvrage, et on est très chanceux de l'avoir. Alors, merci. Ajournement à 9h22. Très bien. Bonsoir tout le monde. Thank you.